Hello and welcome to Mabina TV. This is where I talk all issues about Africa. So for now, I'm looking at this concept: why don't African presidents obey term limits? That is, why don't African presidents obey term limits? So for now, you have the president of Ivory Coast, Alassane Ouattara, saying that basically he will not obey the term limit because it did not start. That is, the presidential term limit did not start in 2016. So he went to power in 2011. That is Alassane Ouattara of Ivory Coast. Then he went and changed the constitution. So the constitution was changed in 2016. So for now, he says that he has served only 7 years. So he sought an additional, that is an additional 5 years. So he will be out of power in 2026. So why don't African presidents obey term limits? Do we have this tendency of African presidents being dictators? So you had President Yoweri Museveni telling the opposition leader Kizza Besigye that if he wants to get to power, then what he must do, he must he must be able to, that is, if he gets to power, he must be able to basically, that is, go to the forest and fight for power. So that was the message of Yoweri Museveni, the president of Uganda, telling the opposition leader Kizza Besigye that if he wants to get power, he must go to the forest and get power. And get power from the forest. That is what he did. And you remember, Yoweri Museveni, on campaigning power in 1986, told his people that basically the problem with African leaders is overstaying in power. That is Yoweri Museveni telling the Ugandan people that the problem with African leaders is overstaying in power. So now Yoweri Museveni now is now one of the longest serving leaders in the world. He is now, I think, serving at least he is serving his 37th in power. Of course, they will say, but look, I think the African leaders will argue, look, the Queen of England served for 70 years in power. That is the argument I think the African leaders will make. Look, the Queen of England served in power for 70 years. He ruled from 1952 to 2022. So that was 70 years in power. So why do you begrudge African leaders for staying in power for that long? So that is the argument of the African leaders. But I would say she is not, maybe she doesn't hold a constitutional power. It is not a constitutional monarchy, maybe like the Arab countries. So maybe that is the argument I will make. The Queen of England does not have a constitutional monarchy like the Arab countries. So I would say maybe if it is our time to look, the African leaders should know that basically the essence of a great dancer is leaving the stage when the applause from the crowd is loudest. That is the essence of a great dancer, is to leave the stage when applause from the crowd is loudest. Otherwise, you don't leave the stage when the crowd has stopped clapping or left the auditorium altogether. You leave the stage when the applause from the crowd is loudest. So that is, do you think African leaders, why do you think African leaders overstay in power? So that is something that we are bound to discuss. And I think if we fix the leadership problem in Africa, then we'll have fixed everything. Because Africa, the problem with Africa, everything rises and falls on leadership. If we get good leaders in Africa, Africa will be able to develop. It will become a superpower. I think Africa has the potential to reach $200 trillion, but we have leaders that basically don't want to lead well. If we get leaders that lead well, then basically Africa will be able to rise to prominence very, very fast. So what do you think is the problem of African leaders? Do you think African leaders, why do you think African leaders overstay in power? So bye for now. This is Mabinda TV for now. Till the next episode, bye for now. That's